Hey guys, today we're talking about the functions of political parties. In other words, we're discussing what it is that political parties actually do. Political parties play a key role in government and provide opportunities for citizens to participate in the political process. In other words, political parties help our government and they help us. Okay, so it's not just that the Democrats helped President Obama or the Republicans helped Mitt Romney or the Democrats are helping Hillary Clinton or the Republicans are helping or not helping Donald Trump. They play a key role in our government and they give us opportunities to participate in the political process. And we'll talk a little bit more about how they do that in a second. So first of all, what is a political party? It's important to know that it's not a real party. It's not like people gathering together to celebrate something. It's something different than that. A political party is a group of citizens that share common ideas about the way the government should carry out or do its work. So political parties are groups of people that gather together out of a shared belief in how the government should be operating, how the government should be functioning. Currently, we live in a two-party system, and you're not going to have to write down anything for this section, but there's a little bit of a good explanation of the origins of the two-party system. Different political parties or groups were first formed in the early 1790s. You may also remember this time as the time when our Constitution was written, signed, and ratified or passed. Why did they form? Well, they formed because of disagreements on how to interpret the Constitution. And while we haven't always had the representation of the elephant and the donkey, there have always been sort of two different parties or groups that disagree on how the Constitution should be interpreted and how the government should function. These days, the Republicans tend to want a strict interpretation of the Constitution, while the Democrats tend to want a looser interpretation. At the time that political parties formed, Alexander Hamilton is a very famous person who wanted a loose interpretation of the Constitution and a stronger central or federal government. There are two different governments that you live under. Since we live in Virginia, we live under the state government, which is housed in Richmond, and the federal government, which is housed in Washington, D.C. Alexander Hamilton was somebody who wanted the federal government to be stronger, and that is why his political party came to be known as the Federalists. On the other hand, you had people like Thomas Jefferson, who wanted a strict interpretation of the Constitution and stronger state governments. In other words, people like Thomas Jefferson wanted the government in Richmond to be stronger. Okay, and those people at that time were called Democratic Republicans. Notice their name includes both the political parties we know today. So today, our political power, our political parties are generally two different groups. You have the Democrats on one side and the Republicans on the other. I know the pictures are a little dated, but in such a hotly contested election, I think that going back to the previous election might be a little bit more appropriate. They have different ideologies and beliefs. First, you have the liberals, or the Democrats. Democrats and liberals aren't the same thing, but they have similar beliefs, and generally people who are more liberal tend to side with the Democratic Party. These people favor more government assistance to people like you and I. They want the government to have a larger role in the lives of its citizens, and they generally support higher taxes to support social programs or programs that help people individually, such as housing programs and welfare programs and education programs. On the other hand, you have the conservatives, who tend to side more with the Republicans. They favor assistance to businesses over individuals on the argument that the businesses, when they are given proper assistance, will then be able to provide the same assistance to individuals. like you and I. They tend to want a smaller federal government, and they tend to want the state governments to be stronger, much like President Jefferson did with the Democratic Republicans. Another thing that Republicans tend to support is a stronger military. Then you have the moderates. The moderates tend to be middle of the road. Moderates can be either Democrat or Republican, depending on which party they prefer, because moderates tend to have some beliefs that are liberal and some beliefs that are conservative. Most of the people that you know could probably be classified as moderate instead of liberal or conservative, whether or not they side with one party over the other. These candidates are usually more extreme in their beliefs to win their party's nomination. So, like when you had President Obama and Governor Romney running against each other, when they were in the primary and trying to win the nomination, they tended to be a little bit more extreme in their beliefs. They said things that more liberal or conservative people would agree with. But once they win the nomination, the real challenge is to appeal to the center, appeal to the moderate people in order to win the general election. The election we're facing on November 8th would be the general election. Okay? So in the general election, they tend to go more towards the center in what they say and do. So the actual functions of political parties. Alright, so we're finally on the functions of the political parties. First of all, political parties recruit and nominate candidates. They do this in a process known as the primary election. You saw the primary election last year when Donald Trump was running against other Republicans and Hillary Clinton was running against other Democrats. Then in July, you saw the parties pick a winner, and thus they nominated Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump to run for president. In 2012, the Democrats nominated President Obama, and the Republicans nominated Governor Romney. All right, they also educate voters about campaign issues, or something we call the platform. The platform is a metaphor. A platform is a list of programs or ideas that the party's candidate will support. In other words, the platform is where the candidate stands. Just like you would stand on a platform, the beliefs or the ideas that the candidate supports are known as a platform because it's what they stand on. Each individual idea is typically known as a plank, again dealing with that metaphor of the platform being where the candidate stands, being their ideas and beliefs. All right. The third role of political parties is that they help candidates win elections. In most cases, this is done through fundraisers. They provide money for the candidates to do things like put out advertisements and things of that nature. Last, the political parties are going to monitor the actions of office holders or watchdog. Generally, they do this when they lose an election. So, for example, since President Obama is a Democrat, right now the Republicans are taking the time to monitor his actions to make sure that he doesn't abuse his power. And we call this watchdogging. So what is a watchdog? Think about like if you have a watchdog at home. It's someone that watches and guards and protects your house. If the voters are the house or the country is the house, then the party that's watchdogging is protecting the people from the party in power. And they're basically protecting them from the party in power abusing that power. So, for example, since President Obama won the election in 2012, you see the picture there where Mitt Romney's saying, "I'll be watching you." It's because the Republicans are watchdogging the Democrats at the moment. So the party that lost the election monitors the party in power for any mistakes or misuse of that power. They make sure that they're not abusing their power. All right, you just saw a snippet of what we're going to do after you do the notes for this section, but that will be in a little while. I will talk to you soon. See you later.